Welcome to the Westbrook English Channel. You know, what if I told you that the absolute worst you've ever felt, that crushing, paralyzing blanket of sadness, isn't a malfunction at all?
Yeah, that it's actually this highly advanced piece of biological survival tech.
Exactly. So today on our deep dive, we are completely dismantling how we think about feeling down. We're looking at the anatomy of sadness.
Right, what it actually is on a biological level.
Yeah, and the incredibly precise vocabulary we can use to describe it. Plus, most importantly, the actionable ways you can comfort someone else going through it.
We're pulling from a really dynamic stack of sources today for you. We have a clinical psychological breakdown of sadness versus depression, a super practical guide on offering comfort, and an excerpted dialogue from our very own Westbrook English Channel archives.
Oh, the clip with Claire and Leo.
Yes, exactly. In that clip, Claire is having a particularly bad day, and her friend Leo helps her navigate the absolute nuances of emotional vocabulary.
Such a great example. Our mission today is simple, really. We want to give you, the listener, the exact linguistic tools to map out your own emotional landscape,
Right, and give you a practical playbook so you can be the ultimate supportive anchor for a friend.
all while understanding the evolutionary purpose behind feeling down. Because, before we can even look at how to describe sadness, we have to understand why we even have this deeply uncomfortable feeling.
Well, our sources define sadness as an emotional reaction to a negative change or a loss.
Like losing a loved one, or a job, or even just a dream.
Yeah, we're just losing a sense of connection. But what's crucial to understand is the composition of that feeling. It isn't just, a desire to cry.
Right.
It's characterized by feelings of disadvantage, loss, helplessness, sorrow, and interestingly enough, rage.
Rage. That completely surprised me in the
It's
research.
unexpected, right?
Yeah, we tend to think of sadness as this very passive, deflated state. But rage is a sharp, aggressive emotion mixed right into the middle of that heavy blanket.
It makes sense, though, when you consider that loss often feels like a theft.
Like something was taken from you.
Exactly. And that triggers this inherent sense of injustice. So when we experience that complex cocktail of emotions, we usually become less active, much more quiet and withdrawn.
And biologically, this happens for two very specific evolutionary reasons.
Yes. The first is what we can call the emotional pause button. Physically and mentally, sadness just slows down our systems.
Our metabolic rate can actually shift.
Right. It literally forces us into a state of reflection so we can process difficult events and adapt to new realities.
I like to think of it like a smartphone or a computer running a massive background system update.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
Yeah, like when your phone is doing a major OS update, everything else has to run incredibly slowly or it just completely freezes.
Because the core system needs all the processing power.
Right, all the available RAM to integrate the new reality into its code. You simply can't open any other apps. Sadness is our biological system update.
Your brain is dedicating all its energy to rewriting your internal map of the world. It has to account for the loss you just experienced.
And because all that energy is diverted inward, we physically slow down. But there's a second evolutionary purpose, isn't there?
Yeah, and this one is entirely outward-facing. It functions as a social signal. Visually, sadness communicates to others that we are vulnerable.
The drooping shoulders, the tears, the flat facial expressions.
Exactly. Those are universal broadcasts saying, I need support, I need comfort, I need help.
And historically, answering that signal is what strengthens our social bonds. It keeps the human tribe alive.
It keeps us cohesive.
But wait, if sadness is an evolutionary social signal meant to draw people in, doesn't our modern society's obsession with hiding negative emotions just directly contradict our biology?
Oh, it is a profound contradiction. We have a biological imperative to broadcast our vulnerability.
Right, so the tribe can protect us.
But we live in a culture that often stigmatizes that exact same vulnerability. We're constantly told to, smile through it or hustle through the pain.
Never let them see you sweat.
Exactly. And when we hide our sadness out of shame or just wanting to appear productive, we are essentially turning off our own distress beacon.
Wow. We deprive our friends and family of the opportunity to fulfill their evolutionary role.
We suffer in isolation when we were biologically designed to suffer in community.
We are literally jamming our own distress beacons. And since sadness is biologically designed as a signal, how we communicate it matters deeply.
Which brings us back to that source dialogue from our Westbrook English Channel archives.
Yes, where Claire describes her sadness to Leo. She calls it a standard issue heavy blanket.
And Leo does something fascinating there. He doesn't just offer sympathy. He helps her find the precise shade of her feelings.
Moving way beyond the basic word sad.
Right. This is a vital tool, and not just for English learners wanting to expand their vocabulary.
Yeah, it's for anyone who wants to communicate their internal state clearly. Because sad is a massive, blunt umbrella word.
But moving beyond it actually makes the emotion manageable. Our sources point out that giving a precise name to our shadows takes away their power.
It relies on a neurological mechanism, right?
Right.
Affect labeling. Let's look at the neuroscience of that for a second. Why does naming the monster shrink it?
Well, when you feel a vague, overwhelming sense of sadness, your amygdala, which is the emotional alarm center of the brain, is highly active.
It's just flashing red.
Right. But when you pause to search for the exact word to describe that feeling, you have to engage your prefrontal cortex.
The logic and language center.
Exactly. Engaging the prefrontal cortex literally sends inhibitory signals down to the amygdala. It turns down the volume of the emotional alarm.
So you're using language to physically calm your nervous system. That is wild.
Vocabulary gives us power on a purely biological level.
Let's walk through the specific words Leo suggests to Claire then, because the imagery is so evocative. The first one is melancholic.
Right. Claire describes this as feeling slow, like her brain is wading through molasses.
Yeah, melancholic is this reflective, low-energy state. The world kind of loses its color.
She even calls it a historical sadness. It feels ancient, or like it's settled deep into her bones.
A dull, persistent ache instead of a sharp pain. Then Leo offers the word somber.
Now, somber is heavy, slow-moving, dark, and serious.
The source compares a somber person to someone draped in quiet gloom. Claire's description of this was perfect.
What did she say again?
She said being somber feels like a rainy Tuesday inside the head, regardless of what the weather is actually doing outside.
Oh, that's incredibly accurate. And because she feels like a rainy Tuesday, she feels disconnected, like watching everyone else live their lives through a thick pane of glass.
Yeah, and that feeling of watching the world from behind glass leads Leo to introduce two more nuanced words, wistful and desolate.
Wistful is an interesting shade of sadness. It involves a hint of longing. You're looking backward at something you miss.
It has this nostalgic sweetness mixed into the pain.
Exactly. Desolate, on the other hand, is completely barren. It's isolated, like standing in an empty gray landscape.
Claire realizes she isn't quite desolate, but she leans toward that sense of isolation.
Yeah.
And that's when she lands on the word forlorn.
Forlorn. It's a heartbreaking sense of being left behind, abandoned, or forgotten.
She compares feeling forlorn to the atmosphere of an abandoned house.
By the end of that conversation, Claire isn't just dealing with a terrifying, formless monster. She's dealing with a specific human mood.
She's feeling a little melancholic, a bit somber, and a touch forlorn. It gives her and Leo a map of her emotional weather.
That's a beautiful concept.
It is, but let's be realistic for a second. If I am the absolute depths of misery, if my amygdala is screaming and I'm practically catatonic on the couch, the absolute last thing my brain is capable of doing is flipping through an emotional thesaurus.
That's a very fair point.
Like, how is anyone supposed to access these precise words when their brain is practically offline?
Well, you shouldn't expect someone in the depths of sorrow to suddenly become an eloquent poet. The key here is preventative maintenance.
Ah, so you learn these words when you're fine.
Exactly. You discuss these concepts with your friends when you are feeling healthy and secure. You build the shelter before it rains.
So when the heavy blanket does fall, you already share a shorthand.
Right. Or the friend who is acting as the anchor can gently offer the words, just like Leo did. You guide them by asking, does it feel heavy today, or does it feel more like you're longing for something?
That makes a lot of sense.
Hmm.
Now, if we know that finding the right word helps us manage daily situational sadness by engaging our prefrontal cortex, we also have to recognize when the brain state has shifted so much that vocabulary just isn't enough.
Right. Where is the line between experiencing a somber or forlorn day and slipping into true clinical depression?
Our clinical sources separate the two based on three distinct categories: trigger, duration, and impact. Let's start with the trigger.
Sadness is usually tied to a specific event or a loss. There is a tangible reason for the system update.
But depression can occur without any clear, obvious trigger. The heavy blanket just appears out of nowhere.
Then there is the duration. Sadness is temporary. It might take days or even weeks for the system update to finish, but it eventually lifts.
The clouds eventually part. But depression is persistent. It can last for weeks, months, or even years without natural relief.
Finally, we look at the impact, which is perhaps the most defining difference. In sadness, even deep, agonizing sadness, you can still find brief moments of distraction.
Like a friend might make you laugh for 30 seconds, or you might genuinely enjoy the taste of a good meal.
Exactly. But depression features a symptom called anhedonia. This is a total pervasive loss of pleasure. It completely disrupts daily functioning.
Anhedonia, a total loss of pleasure. People casually misuse the word depressed in everyday conversations so often.
Oh, all the time.
You hear, I'm so depressed, my favorite show just ended, or I'm depressed, it's raining on my day off.
Which diminishes what depression actually is.
Right. If anhedonia means the brain physically cannot process pleasure right now, that completely invalidates our usual instinct to try and cheer a sad person up.
Because you can't just fix them with a joke.
So how does understanding anhedonia change our actual role in that moment?
It changes everything about how we approach comfort. Anhedonia means the brain's dopamine reward circuit is severely compromised. Imagine a stereo system where the volume knob for joy is physically disconnected from the speaker.
Okay.
You can turn the knob all you want. You can tell jokes, bring gifts, try to force a smile, but the signal literally cannot reach the speaker.
Wow.
When you understand that the inability to feel joy is structural, you stop taking it personally when your attempts to cheer them up fail.
You shift your empathy from trying to entertain them out of their mood to simply being a reliable, supportive presence in the darkroom with them.
You stop trying to fix the unfixable.
Okay, so if we can't cheer them up, and we know sadness is a social signal asking for support, how do we actually answer that distress beacon? What's the practical playbook for being a good anchor?
The sources provide very clear rules for this. Rule number 1, just listen. Do not try to fix it.
We have a terrible habit of defaulting to toxic positivity, don't we?
We really do, mostly because sitting with someone else's pain makes us uncomfortable. We say things like, well, look on the bright side, or everything happens for a reason.
Or, here is what you should do. Those phrases always feel so dismissive, they completely invalidate the biological signal the person is sending.
Exactly. And a sad person usually isn't looking for solutions. They just want to feel heard. Instead of fixing it, use phrases like, that sounds incredibly hard, or simply, I am right here.
Which leads directly to rule number 2, validate their feelings. The sources note that people often feel guilty for being sad.
Which just compounds the misery. You have to remove that guilt by assuring them their reaction is completely normal.
Say things like, it makes total sense that you're upset, or your feelings are completely valid.
And then we arrive at rule number 3, which is where almost everyone makes the biggest mistake with the best of intentions. Offer specific, practical help.
The golden rule here is, do not say, let me know if you need anything.
Right, it sounds so polite and supportive, but it's actually counterproductive.
Saying, let me know if you need anything, to a profoundly sad person is like handing a drowning person a manual on how to build a boat.
That is the perfect analogy.
It is completely useless and actually adds to their stress. They are trying to keep their head above water, and you're asking them to read.
That analogy captures the cognitive burden you are placing on them perfectly. When you say, let me know if you need anything, you are requiring a person whose brain is already overwhelmed by a massive background system update to utilize their executive functioning.
Let's expand on that cognitive load for a second. Why is answering, what do you need, so difficult?
To answer that question, a sad person has to survey their own life, identify a specific gap or need, formulate a plan to solve it,
Assess whether you're the appropriate person to handle that specific task.
and then actually articulate their request to you. That requires immense energy from the prefrontal cortex, energy they simply do not have.
They literally might not have the cognitive resources to answer you.
Exactly.
So instead of asking open-ended questions, we have to offer concrete, low-effort favors. You remove the choices and make the help a simple yes or no question.
You don't ask what they want for dinner. You say, I'm ordering pizza right now. Can I drop a box off at your place?
Right. You don't ask what you can do around the house. You say, can I come over and take care of your laundry today? Or even just, do you want me to sit on the couch with you while you watch a movie?
You take on the executive functioning for them. But even if you master bringing them food or sitting with them, you have to realize that everyone processes that support differently.
Yeah, you have to tailor your physical presence to the specific shade of sadness they're experiencing.
And our sources detail 3 very distinct types of processors.
Meeting them where they are. The first type of processor is the venter. These are the people who need to cry, they need to talk.
And they'll likely repeat the story of why they're sad over and over again until the emotion finally passes.
The repetition isn't them being stuck, though, is it?
No, it's narrative processing. Every time they vocalize the story, it stimulates the vagus nerve, which helps soothe their autonomic nervous system.
Fascinating. Then you have the second type, the distractors. These people process by actively looking away from the pain.
Right. They might want to go for a long walk, play a video game, or talk about literally anything else except what is making them sad.
And biologically, they're doing that to protect themselves, right? Their brain is actively avoiding looking directly at the trauma to prevent the amygdala from completely flooding their system.
Precisely. They need to titrate the pain, taking it in tiny, manageable doses while looking away in between.
And finally, you have the quiet ones. They don't want to vent, and they don't want to play video games.
They just want your physical presence without any pressure to speak. They're looking for physiological co-regulation.
Just having another breathing, calm human being sitting nearby helps lower their cortisol levels.
It really does.
That makes total sense in theory, but here's a highly practical question. If you were stepping into a room with a sad friend, how can you immediately read the room to tell if they were a venter, a distractor, or a quiet one?
Because you can't just interrogate them.
Right. If you ask, are you a venter or a distractor today? You are going to ruin the moment and add to their cognitive load.
It requires a gentle approach, observation, and patience. When you walk in, start neutral, sit down, and offer an open, low-pressure statement like, "It's really good to see you."
And then just wait.
Match their energy.
Yeah.
If they are a venter, they will usually take that opening and start talking. If they're quiet, you sit in the silence with them.
And what if they're a distractor?
Well, after a few minutes of comfortable silence, you can offer a low-stakes off-ramp to test it.
Something casual to see if they take the bait.
Yes. You might pull something out of your bag and say, "Hey, I brought my Switch if you feel like playing Mario Kart, but we can also just keep sitting here." You give them an option without any pressure.
If they say no, you return to being a quiet presence.
Start neutral, match their energy, and offer a low-stakes distraction.
It's brilliant. And there is one crucial reminder from the sources regarding all of this that we absolutely cannot skip.
Oh, protecting your own energy.
Yes, you can be a supportive, loving anchor for your friend without drowning in their stormy weather with them.
It is entirely okay to set boundaries and take breaks. Empathy does not mean absorbing someone else's trauma until you break.
If the anchor sinks, everyone sinks. You have to keep your own head above water to be of any use to the person you are trying to help.
Absolutely.
Let's bring all of this together. We've covered a tremendous amount of ground today regarding the heavy blankets and the rainy Tuesdays. We established that sadness is not a flaw, it's a vital evolutionary feature.
It's a biological pause button that forces our brains to process new realities, and a highly visible social distress signal designed to draw our tribe in for support.
We explored the neuroscience of affect labeling, learning that finding precise words, whether it's melancholic, somber, wistful, or forlorn, actually engages our logic centers and shrinks the emotional monster.
It gives us power over our moods. We also clarified the stark clinical limits between temporary sadness and persistent depression.
Zeroing in on the structural inability to feel joy known as anhedonia. And we gave you a practical, actionable playbook for being a good anchor.
Don't try to fix it. Validate their feelings. Completely avoid toxic positivity.
And never hand a drowning person a manual by saying, "Let me know if you need anything."
Right. Instead, relieve their cognitive load by offering specific yes or no help, tailored to whether they are a venter, a distractor, or a quiet one.
The overarching theme of all these sources is that empathy must be grounded in understanding. Knowledge about how our brains and bodies process sorrow is most valuable when it's actively applied to how we treat each other in our darkest moments.
So to you, our listener, the next time your friend feels that crushing weight settle over you, you now have the exact vocabulary to map out the shade of the day.
And you have the actionable phrases to offer genuine life-changing comfort without adding to the burden. But before we go, looking at how evolution designed us to handle grief raises one final, profound question for you to consider on your own.
We established early on that sadness evolved over millennia as a highly visible social signal. It was designed to be seen so our tribe would know to gather around us.
But think about this. In our hyper-digital age, we have the unprecedented ability to constantly curate our lives. We use filters, we post perfectly chosen photos, and we project a flawless image of success and happiness 24/7.
So are we inadvertently jamming our own evolutionary signal?
Exactly. By making our digital lives look perfectly fine, are we making it absolutely impossible for our anchors to know when we're actually drowning?
It's a profound tension between our biological need for community and our technological capacity for isolation.
Something to mull over the next time you scroll through your feed and see nothing but smiling faces. Thank you for joining us on the Westbrook English channel as we unpacked the anatomy of sadness. Take care of yourselves out there. Give yourselves permission to feel whatever shade of the day you're in, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive. Saying goodbye.